Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
You are one breakthrough away from your next six-figure year. Maybe it's a better offer, a sharper sales process, or finally cracking client acquisition. Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets, where every single week we hand you the strategies, frameworks, and real-world plays that are working right now for coaches just like you. I'm your host, the Road Dog, with the legend himself, Karl Bryan. Let's get into it. Shoots?
Yo, shoots. You've been practicing, man. Well done.
Buddy,
I like that.
buddy. You know, I hear it's the year 6 that we dial this in perfectly. So we have a YouTube channel of us just setting up for the podcast. If you would blooper reel of all time, I swear to God.
Buddy, it would be, what's that? Like bloopers.
Oh yeah, times a billion.
Yeah, exactly.
Times a billion. You know, it's a good thing. I'm trying to segue that we were just talking about Robert Redford, and it's like, you know what, we aren't Hollywood ready yet, Shoots. We're definitely not Hollywood ready. But anyways.
The audience agreed. On behalf of the audience, Shoots, you are correct.
If only they knew the behind the scenes. Okay. We were talking to Robert Redford, and there was you had something there that you want to share in regards to Robert Redford.
Okay. By the way, this might go poorly. Hang on, I just got to open up my phone here. Give me a sec. So I was listening to Robert Redford, and he was doing he won like a lifetime sort of award. Which, by the way, I think Robert Redford's pretty damn cool. Anyway, so what did he say? So, by the way, I'm going to read this, but I was listening to it and I took notes on my phone. So I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit choppy and not 100% accurate with what he said. But I think that the spirit in which what he said, I thought it landed for me. Right. So what did he say? Here are my notes, not notes, but like kind of word for word what he said. So sometimes we make entertainment, sometimes we make art, and sometimes we're lucky enough to do both. And if we're really fortunate, sometimes we get to make a living doing it. Success in this business brings a certain freedom that comes with responsibility to support each other, to lift others up when we can, to keep the door open for the next kid, for the next boy looking for a place to belong, right? For the next boy looking for a place to belong. I'm indeed a lucky guy. Lucky to have found my people, lucky to have work that challenges me, lucky to still be doing it. And I don't, oh God, I got some choppiness here. I think what it says, and I don't take that for granted. I want to say thank you and truly from the bottom of my heart to my peers, to my extraordinary and beautiful wife and my family. You have given me love, courage through all of it. And thank you for honoring me with this award, prize, however he said it, right? But what I took away from that, it was like, we often here at focus.com, right? Like I have found my people, we have a bit of a community and we do this happy hour that we've just started and we do that, once a month and everybody gets together and we can talk about anything and we can talk about business and they could ask a question, but it's really designed to be, lighthearted, let your guard down and get to know some other folks that are effectively doing what you're doing. And it just made me think of me and you know what I mean, where, I was that kid or that boy that he mentioned looking, how did he word it, for a place to belong. Anyway, so I thought that was kind of cool. And we as business coaches, we find work that is challenging, that we enjoy, that pushes us, that is meaningful. And I just don't think that should be taken for granted. That is an absolute blessing, in my opinion. I always say, as a business coach, if you crack it, you are semi-retired for the rest of your life, right? You get 20 clients at $2,000 a month. It's 480 grand with 80% margins. You're the top 5% all day long. And I just think that's powerful. So anyway, so I read it. I don't know how that coming across, but that's
You know,
that's what he said. I thought it was cool.
yeah, it's interesting because obviously there's, creating entertainment, creating art, making a living up. Are there any other sort of parallels that you can pull from that? And I would say obviously directed, to at the coaching space, if you will. Anything there?
Yeah. My first, my daily email, right? I don't even know where I'm at, but like 1,500 daily emails or something crazy. The first one that I wrote was about Jim Carrey. I think it was the first one. Might have been the second or third, but I'm pretty sure it was the very first one. Anyway, so he famously wrote himself. But what I was talking about is preparedness, right? Like, so when he's obviously a very funny guy, but he took he was Andy Kaufman in Man of the Moon, which was, not really a funny, you know what I mean? It was very different than Jim Carrey would normally do. But when he did it, he was in character for like 90 days. So like you'd see him, in the middle of the day and he'd be out there, getting lunch, whatever. And he'd literally be talking like Andy Kaufman. The bottom line, like, are you like, just think of the level of professionalism and stick-to-itness and whatever words you want to put in there. Like imagine just going to that level, because you go to Jim Carrey and you go, oh, yeah, look, I would love to have Jim Carrey's money and Jim Carrey's fame, which by the way, if you want to be famous, just meet somebody famous and ask them how it's going. They'll generally tell you. Getting famous, I think it's Will Smith. He said, getting famous is amazing. Being famous, not nearly as amazing. But anyway, so I think people see that, but like, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to do the homework? Are you willing to get in character for 90 days straight? And I could only assume think of the level that is. But anyway, so he wrote himself a check for, I believe it was $10 million. He put it in his wallet, and then I think he dated it, and then he got a role, which I believe was Mask. And guess how much he got paid? He got paid $10 million. Message, he set his sights, and he said it, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And lo and behold, guess what? Nearly, I believe, to the day, the year, certainly, that he wrote it, he got paid $10 million to do Mask or a movie. So decide what you want and then commit to paying the price to achieve it. Is what I think I'm trying to say there. I would also say, Shoots, like we talk about athletes, and like if you worked as hard to become a great business coach as an athlete does to win an Olympic gold, or a professional hockey player does to stay on top of their game and sign the, $10 million a year contract, the football player, the $50 million a year contract to the baseball player. Baseball players, I think they're more like $100 million a year, whatever it is. If you work that hard, you'd be dangerous as a business coach. But it just comes Kobe Bryant. We used to talk about this a fair bit. I haven't talked about it in a while, I don't think. But like Kobe Bryant, if you can see an interview when he was 15 years old, and he basically wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time, right? That was his goal. Never wavered. He stuck to it. So imagine, like decision fatigue is an absolute thing. So if you were Kobe Bryant and you wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time, do you train once a day or do you train 3 times a day? You know the answer, right? If you're going to train 3 times a day, do you start training at 5 o'clock or do you wait until noon? You know the answer, 5 o'clock, right? He's got a wife and a family, right? Before the big game, do your wife asks you to take out the trash? If you don't take out the trash, you're going to have a headache. If you just take out the damn trash, guess what? You're just avoiding chaos that you don't otherwise need. And remember, the guy's got a championship game to play, or a championship to win, and players to motivate, and fans to entertain, etc. Right? What do? You just take out the damn trash, right? There's chocolate and then there's broccoli. Which one do you have? Yes, Kobe is, poor guy, maybe rest in peace, right? But, he loved chocolate, no doubt, just like you and I do. But which one would he grab? Which one would you grab if you're Kobe Bryant? You grab the salad, you grab the broccoli. So anyway, so what happens by getting super clear on what it is that you want to accomplish, your decision making becomes easy. You want to be a 7-figure coach. Do you go to the networking function or do you not go to the networking function? right? Before you go to the networking function, do you practice what you're going to say? Do you plan what you're going to say? Remember, you've got to be interesting. The magic, you want to be interested, but you've also got to be interesting, right? So if somebody says, "Oh, hey, what do you do?" Are you going to give a boring platitude type answer? Are you going to drop a few bombs, right? The question is, if you're going to drop a few bombs, did you practice those bombs in the mirror before you went? And by the way, is it going to work out perfectly? Did Kobe Bryant win every game? Did Michael Jordan win every game? Did Michael Schumacher win every race? Did Wayne Gretzky score every breakaway? No, no, and no, right? But what do? They kept showing up, kept showing up, kept showing up. And when things weren't going right, did they train harder or did they go to the bar? They trained harder, right? So anyway, so I think there's some magic. You want to be a 7-figure coach and you legitimately want to be a 7-figure coach, because saying it and then believing it and then doing it are very different things. You got to just dial in. And what do they say? Like an 8-figure business starts in hell, right? And you may or may not be speaking to somebody who understands what that means. Anyway, shoot. So that, I don't know, how am I doing? I don't know. There's, parallels. Decide what you want and then just bloody go do it. But you've got to commit. There's a price to be paid to do it. There was a price to being Kobe Bryant. He missed out on the bar. He missed out on some dating in high school. He missed out on a lot of parties. He missed out on a lot of things. But I would dare say, if you look at the results, he got what he wanted, and he's a pretty happy boy. So, anyways, there you go, Shoots. That's my answer.
It's not just a matter of what you say yes to; it's a matter of what you say no to as well, right? It's one of the and maybe it's just because midlife for the road dog. A whole lot of reflection, and it's just funny how lately it's just really hit me that the greatest lie that we're ever told is that we need to go and find ourselves. We don't find ourselves; we build and create ourselves.
Oh, there
and
you go.
like it's this whole, oh, I'm not the person I used to be. Good, like, man, like build.
Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's like the worst thing in the world is being stuck into this belief that you are that you can't change, or that you once were this complete work of art. Like, no, you weren't. If the future is exactly what you make of it, and I think that's the biggest thing. And I think my biggest fear right now, aside from snakes, Shoots, I don't like snakes, is probably being in the exact same place that I am today a year from now. But
nice.
You know what? Interesting segue there. What's your greatest fear, Shoots?
My greatest fear. What's yours? You say snakes? Is that your greatest fear?
Well, yeah. The deeper part of me said being in the same spot 12 months from now that I am today.
Yeah, okay.
But on a surface level, yeah, I hate snakes. I hate them. I don't want to see them. I don't want to touch them. I don't want to be anywhere near.
I lived in Australia a long time, buddy. I can tell you, I've seen my share of snakes, and not little ones. I'll give you the red hot tip. Not little ones. My greatest fear. Well, maybe you're only born with 2 fears. Fear of falling and fear of loud noises. So translation, the rest are adopted, starting with mine. I don't know, Shoots. I think I'm human, and people's the greatest fears generally. Give me a room of 100 people, and I'll show you people that are fearful of not being enough, and then fearful of losing love. I am not immune to those things by any stretch of the imagination, without getting all how you doing. But anyways, actually, you know what? For business coaches, what I would say, and maybe something here that I'm comfortable saying that I have battled in my past, but I would say, look, the most business coaches specifically, just given kind of what we've taken on as our career and whatnot. Fundamental fear: if you knew me, you wouldn't love me. If you knew me, you wouldn't love me. Maybe if you got to know, if I let you in, it's not going to end well, right? So if you knew me, you wouldn't love me. So I would say that, I'm not immune to that. And by the way, I'm not alone by any stretch in the imagination. I definitely anxiety, anxiety is the price of ambition. And I am an incredibly ambitious person, to a fault, possibly. And again, my big brother committed suicide when I was 16 years old. My dear mother then drank herself to death in front of me, and that was not a lot of fun. And no doubt you can understand how that just comes with a little bit of chaos and a little bit of inner, you know what I mean? So I'm driving. So again, chasing an inner ghost is something that I've debatably done for a long time. Anyway, so I would just say that. Actually, okay, so maybe just to support that though, one thing, like I'm a busy guy. I've always been a busy guy, and here would be a question that I would ask a business coach related to fear, and it would be something to the effect of, if I looked at your routine, or is your routine designed, I'm going to say like on a subconscious level more than a conscious level, but is your routine designed so you can stay busy enough so that you never need to deal with who you are as a person? Right? Like, so are you busy or are you hiding? I think is what I'm trying to say. And I think for myself, there was definitely periods of my life where I was very driven, very ambitious, very busy. And truthfully, as I reverse engineer it and I get a little bit older and I can, kind of look back, I think again, I was kind of, there was some inner turmoil there that I was hiding from a little bit, that once I dealt with that, things became a lot lighter, a lot lighter. So I would just ask that, you know what I mean? Are you busy or are you hiding? Because it comes back to identity, kind of, right? Anyway, so if you solve that, I think you'd be good, and that's where silence is a beautiful thing. Meditation is wonderful. And again, you're listening to somebody. Meditation is something that I try to do. I am comfortable saying that I am not very good at it in a roundabout way. I don't know if that's a thing. And I know that somebody would hear that and go, hang on a minute, nobody's bad at meditation, but just that really calm. They do say when you meditate, you got to do it for an hour, for the simple reason that the first 40 minutes is prep for the magical last 20 minutes where all the good stuff is. Getting an hour to meditate is not something that I can do as often as I would like. But anyway, so silence and meditation, if that landed a little bit where your routine is super busy, and that might be you not dealing with who you got to deal with, the personal stuff and the family and the wife and the husband and the kids and the, whatever it might be, business that isn't as big as what you want it to be, as successful as it want to be, a bank balance as big as what you want it to be. Decide what you want, pay the price to go and get it. Bingo, bango, bongo. Actually, then I read a book, gosh, I can't remember the name of it. But basically void was the big takeaway and the big needle mover. Actually, shoots, sadly, I'm going to go back to my phone for a sec. I've got some notes here, but I got to find it. Man, shoots, I need you to tell a joke for a sec while I try to find this. Hang on. Okay. Hang on. Okay, I found it, Shoots. So note, if you were looking for a joke, Shoots, I just saved you. Okay, so I'm going to read this. I haven't looked at this in some time. This is a guy, Jesse, that I follow on social. The man who craves information to ease his problems and reach his next milestone, yet who fails to accurately measure and track his history of implementation and progress, will find himself with cravings that only intensify. Time on its own will only grant him more hunger, and the void inside him will grow more painful and insistent. But he will never feel truly satisfied or at peace, for he is trying to fill a bucket that is full of holes, and no amount of learning will ever replace the reality of his failure to tell himself the truth. That's Jesse Elder, who's he's a pretty decent coach. But anyway, so there you go. So I don't know if that's a little bit too hairy fairy. Shoots. We're going pretty hairy fairy today. But anyway, so I think that's kind of neat. I read that. I thought that was powerful. But I don't know. My greatest fear, Shoots, I think I just fall into the trap of, what most people do. And that's, being enough. Losing love doesn't feel good for anybody. Doesn't feel good for me. Probably doesn't feel good for you. So that's what I would say, Shoots.
Okay, well, that's going to be an interesting pivot for me now. Because yeah, how do I follow that quote from Jesse to me trying to pivot somehow to wanting to get your thoughts on China? Hey, listen, this morning though, I was reading about China and just sort of their economy, and obviously with everything happening in the world right now, the markets, oil markets, everything's a bit of a chaotic mess right now. But I remember
Yeah.
Ray Dalio, you know Ray Dalio, I'm sure.
Love it.
He said
Love it.
some time ago that China was the place to invest, but I wanted to just get your opinion on that. And it's an awkward pivot, I realize, but give me your thoughts on China, their economy, and just sort of maybe Ray Dalio's thoughts on that.
Oh, shoots, I don't, buddy. This would be a good one if I knew. I'm no foreign affairs expert, and I'm not going to pretend. I look, China import more oil than probably anyone else on earth, or certainly up there. Problem, they get it from Iran, Venezuela, Russia, right? Okay, well, Iran is at war, Russia's at war, and you let me know how Venezuela's going with all of the changes and US kind of stepping in, right? Um, and because Venezuela is far less friendly partners today than they were previously. No doubt you could get that, right? And then what's like the Strait of Hormuz, right? Like it's either shut down, it's certainly under threat. Things aren't, would you want to ride a boat through that right now? I think hard no. So cheap oil is no longer, um, you know what I mean, the thing for anybody, and starting with China, and they're the biggest importer. So I can't see how that's good. Because anybody could handle higher pricing. That's not ideal, and the P&L gets crushed, but you deal with it. But you can't handle disruption. That's what's going to turn the economy on its head. I think that's what's well and truly happening, right? So if you look at China, you're going to see, just the economy is down, right? Real estate down, government debt rising, no doubt. Exports. How do you think the exports out of China are doing right now? Right? They're not. I'll tell you, they're not on the upswing. I don't know that they're on the downswing, but they're certainly not on the upswing. And again, not an expert, not pretending to be an expert, but probably a pretty good question. And Ray Dalio, I know what you're saying. Ray Dalio has touted China's, somewhere to be looking as you're thinking to invest. And a lot of people are thinking, okay, well, I don't want to invest only in the US with the way the world is kind of right now. Maybe I should be looking elsewhere. Like Scott Galloway is a guy who I follow, and, incredibly high level thinker in this area. He's screaming that from the mountaintops to diversify. And I would dare say that investments in China would be one that I would be a little bit cautious of. But I'm not an expert, Shoots, but they import a lot of oil, and I'll let you decide if that's a good thing. I'd say it's a bad thing, Shoots.
All right, well, let's pivot back, shall we? Let's get back to the coaching space and perhaps
Yes,
something
please.
that
Yes, please.
maybe you have more of a clue about. But hey, we got a question, and a coach asked the question. You ready for this? Why is
Yep.
revenue recognized before cash is received?
Oh, okay. Okay. Higher level frame. This is a writer downer. Profit is a theory, cash is a fact. Okay. Profit is a theory, cash is a fact. So what do I mean by that? A little thing called accounts receivable. Okay. So if somebody goes bankrupt, somebody doesn't pay, what ends up happening? Okay. So until the cash hits your bank account, the cash is a fact and the profit is a theory. It's a very important concept that I would encourage anybody to nail down. So again, the business, in fact, I think we said this last week, Shoots, but like if you've got a business that is wildly profitable, has no cash, the cash is in 5 areas: revenues, expenses, inventory, accounts payable, accounts receivable, with 100% certainty. And do you think that it's common for a business to have high profits and go, where the heck is all my cash? And the answer would be that happens. So to understand that would be important. But okay, let's get what is it? Revenue. You're recognizing revenue before cash, right? So in a nutshell, accrual counting helps management make better decisions. That's again frame. So Your credit sales are normal in business. And what does that mean? They get 30, 60, 90 days to pay, sometimes even longer or stretched out longer, right? Revenue reflects operational effectiveness rather than cash received. So if you made a sale and delivered a product or service, what have you done? You've completed your obligation. You've done your, delivered your product, delivered your service, and you've earned the revenue, right? Despite the fact, importantly, that the client may not have paid yet. Why? 30, 60, 90 days, right? So if companies waited for cash, what would their financials look like, right? They would look very weak and misleading. And especially think of a busy period, right? Where production was well and truly up. And just think maybe as a frame again, think of it as economic reality versus cash collected, right? Or maybe a matching principle. To measure profit correctly, revenue needs to be recorded in the same period as the expenses accrued to generate it, right? Wait for cash, profit would be misleading, inaccurate. And again, management wouldn't be able to make effective decisions, right? And again, clients are often paying 30, 60, 90 days. So if you waited for the payment, revenues would be totally disconnected from operations of the business, right? So bottom line, to make good business decisions, which I'll let you decide if making good business decisions is important and it is mission critical and where people tend to fall down, you need to have revenue to show where, sales performance, demand levels, and operational effectiveness are measured, right? So, and then by the way, also management can do what? They can plan out inventory. They can plan out some extra staffing, production using, let's correct and accurate numbers and not delayed cash data from like 60 days later, right? And by the way, cash and revenue are tracked separately. Revenue goes onto an income statement. The cash goes onto a cash flow statement. What you're going to find is that 90% of businesses don't have a cash flow statement. Okay. And they're certainly not looking at it. That I'll let you decide if that is a good idea or a bad idea. And it's a really bad one. So anyway, so the fact that revenue goes to the income statement, cash goes to the cash flow statement, this separation keeps financials and reporting accurate and probably maybe a better word would be transparent, right? So you recognize revenue and value of the product services delivered, and then cash when it arrives. They're related, but they are not the same. And if your client has an accounts receivable problem, the first thing you do is you solve that problem first, right? Imagine the money they're losing by delivering the value, the goods, delivering the product, mowing the lawns, cleaning the pool, building the fence, etc., and then not getting paid the cash. Like, what's that going to do? And again, you might hear that and go, well, nobody'd be doing that. Let me tell you, accounts are, just ask any accountant, what percentage of clients have a bit of an accounts receivable problem? And they'll shake their head and say that it is something that's common. So anyway, yeah. And if you would ask me why, it's just simply disorganization. And it's kind of that higher level frame where it's financials are designed to make good business decisions. Again, you got a client who has an accounts receivable problem, I would stop everything and go directly to that. And I wouldn't outsource it. I wouldn't send, the accounts lady in. I would get the owner of the company with an itemized list of accounts, right? So like, how many people owe you money? There's 12 people, there's 200 people, whatever the number is. Let's just say 15 people. Well, then I want every one of them listed. I want the amount listed. And then I also want to know, is it 15 days old, 30 days old, 60 days old, 90 days old, 120 days old, or longer, right? Then what are you going to do? If you haven't got paid in 120 days and you have 30, 60-day terms, what do you think's happening here? Okay, this is a bad thing. And maybe it's just a snafu. And then you're going to call and they're going to immediately, send the check. You're going to invoice them and they're going to hit pay. But there might be something untoward going on where you're all of a sudden not going to get paid that. So anyways, that's why I think it's a great question. And that's my answer, Shoots.
So one thing we've discussed a lot of lately has been the conversation around identity. And I really, much like I alluded to earlier, is, like people are stuck in the past instead of realizing that they can build their future. And I think that probably is partially an identity issue. So I guess if I was to do word association shoots on one word and one word only, and I know it's going to be a rabbit hole on steroids, but yeah, let's do it. Word association, identity.
Identity. Okay. Here's an acid, because again, we've explained it. I kind of don't want to say the same thing. Here's an acid test that I want you to try, right? You can question anything except, I don't want to say it, something that people have built their identity around. Okay. What do people build their identities around? How about religion, political leanings, their industry? I'll tell you a big one, like the version of how the world works, right? So you go, okay, what do you mean? Like there should be a war or there should never be a war. Go to Facebook and let me know if that conversation is going on right now. Billionaires should be taxed wildly, or billionaires create all the jobs, so they should be able to avoid tax and not have a problem with it, right? COVID maybe, was a cooked up hoax, or COVID was very real, right? The vaccine is killing people, or the vaccine is not killing people, and that's just in your head, right? This is kind of like the version of what I would say the way their world works, right? And then try to question that as your acid test, right? What's going to happen is the conversation will go away from being about the topic, right? The billionaire, whatever, and it's going to go to their beliefs, right? Like, well, and understanding higher level frame is that your beliefs are a huge part of who you are as a person. Okay. Again, your identity, they protect your narrative. These stories protect their narrative, right? So that defense mechanism comes from them losing a part of themselves, right? Like we're all wired to protect the things that make our world feel safe and stable, right? Like your mind is not designed to make you grow. Your mind is not designed to make you successful. Your mind is not designed to make you a millionaire. It's designed to keep you safe, right? And even if that safety is built on past information that's no longer accurate, right? Think of, the vaccine. Like maybe it was one way at one time and it might be a little bit different today. And by the way, maybe it's not. Maybe it's exactly the same. Maybe it's the opposite. I don't know. You tell me. Do your own homework, right? Okay, as I say that, Shoots, I want to say this. It might be relevant, but like patience, a little bit off topic, but patience without work is just laziness, right? So what did Charlie Munger? I've said this a few times. Like he says, the money's not in the buying, the money's not in the selling, the money is in the waiting, right? So like patience as an example, but patience without work, you're just kidding yourself, right? Like work without patience is chaos. What do you need? You need both work and patience. You can't, the patience is just you're hiding, right? A frame of bothered by nothing, right, is like the elite level. Your desire for positive changes without discipline and consistency, I'm sorry, but they're just delusion. And sadly, I'm going to call it common, especially amongst the entrepreneurs that you're looking to help, right? In translation, don't hope for better without becoming better as a person, becoming more valuable as a person, right? So like, don't expect if right now you're $1,000 a month, 12 grand a year business coach, right? First of all, high five, good stuff. You're in the sandbox, but you're on your way. Don't expect to become a $50,000 coach without dramatically upping your skills, right? So let me go back to identity. Remember, it's identity. It's not about improving your mindset. Like I built a ladder many a times. So the problem, like you go to the average, life coach, let's just call it, without being too harsh on them, right? What they want to do is they want to improve your mindset. The problem is it's not anywhere deep enough. It's literally the top of the ladder. And if you don't sort out the bottom of the ladder, you're never gonna, do you know what I mean? Like just improving your mindset and chanting, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm good enough. I'm sorry, it's just not going to get you there, right? It's about redefining who you are, redefining your identity. Literally, what does that mean? Literally murdering your old one, right? And can be hard, So guess what? Be gentle with yourself, be gentle on the clients, but be committed, be dogmatic, be flexible on the approach, but dogmatic with the end result, right? Remember, your identity is made up of stories you tell yourself about what is true, what is real, what do you deserve, and who you are as a person. So you answer those questions. It's mission critical to make wild improvements in your career, your business, marketing, life, family, environment, etc. And if you don't, you're not going to get there, and self-sabotage is going to kick in, right? Or maybe said differently, it's not about your habits the way you traditionally have thought of them. Your identity, the one you've decided on, by the way, you have absolutely decided on this. It produces predictable behavior and results, right? But you call them habits, but they're your identity's operating system, right? I often talk about operating system, and that's your habits are your identity's operating system. The way that you're currently operating, those habits, that's your identity just speaking out consciously from your subconscious mind. In fact, Chase Hughes, who's a pretty impressive guy, he described your identity. How did he say it? Something to the effect of like, um, your your identity is your nervous system predicting what you will do when placed under pressure, right? So what do you do when you're under pressure, right? Do you work harder, or do you go into the fetal position? Do you get pissed off, or do you stand the hell up and go to your values and go to your beliefs and say, I'm going to do what's right and I'm going to work my way through this thing, right? Like your persistence, your persistence is a measure of your self-esteem, right? So your identity has one big mean sacred rule, and it's to not violate the story. Therefore, if you break that down, identity change feels like, and frankly is, a lot like death, right? Like when you operate in a way that violates your identity, your stories, you're violating your number one rule, which is what? To stay safe. And by the way, to stay consistent with the set of stories that you've been telling yourself. Like, what does your brain do when you do this? As in, make changes. Your brain is designed for survival. Your brain is a survival mechanism, and it goes on high alert to say what? This is dangerous, or danger ahead, right? It's like a big sign on the side of the road. And what's that danger, by the way? We talked about this maybe a little bit earlier, ironically enough. I'm going to get judged. I'm going to be made to not be enough. I'm going to lose love. We talked about, fundamental fears of everybody. I'm going to lose family. I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to lose clients. I'm going to lose XYZ. I'm going to lose money. Right. And by the way, there's going to be like a loss of belonging, right? In order to take on your new identity, you got to murder the old one. Don't think for a second there's not going to be a loss of belonging for you. And most importantly, a loss of the predictability of what your brain is used to. Like safety I think what we're doing is throwing safety out the window. Does your brain want to do that? No, you've really got to do this at a conscious level to override your subconscious mind. Translation, bloody hard to do. Like, and remember, most people's fundamental fear is that if you got to know me, you wouldn't love me. Right? If you knew me, you wouldn't love me, something along those lines, right? So what do? They hide while pretending not to, right? What do I say about coaches that don't have success? They hide behind the computer, stare at the phone, and experience pain, right? You want to be a successful business coach. All I do is I go, open up your calendar. I'm telling you how it's going, right? Let me see how many phone calls you made, how many texts you sent out, how many private messages you sent, how many networking functions you went, how many people you introduced yourself to. And I can tell you how the next 3 months are going to go, right? You got, if they knew me, they wouldn't love me. Well, you know what? You got to put yourself out there. And by the way, guess what? You get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, right? So the bottom line, you got to destroy that old version, that old operating system first, or self-sabotage is going to kick in, and it often does. And this is why people lose weight and then gain it all back plus 10 pounds and wonder what the hell happened. They achieved their target. Business coaches achieve the target of what? 10 coaching clients, and they get to 20 grand a month. what happens? They slide back to old numbers where they started. They didn't murder their old identity that is keeping them safe. So now hang on. So as I say this, it's like, okay, how are you? Give me the shortcut. Help me cut in line to get this new identity. And I got to tell you, if you want to upgrade, you want to upgrade your identity? Is that like worded? You know what I mean? You want to upgrade your identity, but I really want you to, I want to, no, I don't want to say that. I want to say new identity versus old identity. How do you do it? Because if we just improve it, I don't think you're going to get that meaningful change that you might be looking for. You don't go from, business coach doing okay to 7 figures by improving. You do it by murdering the old coach, right? And how do you do it? One word: shame. We're a little bit harsh, by the way, but shame. You got to learn to get comfortable with shame. I did a really, really high end. I was thinking about this earlier when you asked me about greatest fear and whatnot. So I did this thing called the Hoffman process, and it's like 7 days, no phone, no contact with the outside world, really intense personal development thing. Like you literally write your own eulogy, and then you deliver it over top of a grave, and you pick a grave. And I mean, nobody's doing that without tears. And I mean, it's next level, right? But at the end of the day, how did they do it? The one word that was totally consistent throughout the entire process was shame. And then they did it in a bad way, but also a good way. A bad way to go, this is why you've stayed stuck. But the way that we're going to get you unstuck is that we're going to shame that old identity. They didn't say it quite like that. That would be my wording. But anyway, so shame. And are you comfortable with shaming yourself? And the answer is probably no. And I certainly wasn't. But that's how you do it. Again, we're not looking to improve. We're looking to murder the old identity. So you need to stop committing to improving yourself. Stop saying, I'm going to go to the next level. Think destruction, right? Shame yourself into going to the gym. Shame yourself into losing weight. Get disgusted in the current version of your body, your health. Get naked and stand in front of a bloody mirror, right? Shame yourself into making the calls, sending the messages, doing the video on social, going to the networking function, attending the live event, hosting the live event, getting on stage, becoming the #1 business coach in your city. Make it disgraceful to not be drowning in clients and opportunities. It's who you are as a person, as a needle moving business coach, moving the needle with local business owners so that they stop being suicidal and depressed and experiencing all the stuff that they experience when they fail. And by the way, 90% of them fail. Become a client and an opportunity magnet, right? So people are like a magnet, just sticks to things, right? Like it just sticks to the fridge and it never comes off unless you peel it off. You want to create, that's like Dan Kennedy's old very famous marketing program was called magnetic marketing. It was called magnetic marketing for a reason, right? Remember, getting clients is easy. Getting clients is fun. Say that to yourself 100 times every single day for 90 days and let me know what happens. Getting clients is easy. Getting clients is fun. And truthfully, it is. We just make it so much harder than it needs to be. So that past version of you, what I'm saying, it needs to be shamed. Needs to be a place you will not go. You will never go back to. You must murder that old identity to step into the new one. And improvement, it's okay, but it won't get you that transformational upgrade that you might be looking for. And by the way, maybe you are. Maybe you're just looking to, jack things up 20%. And this isn't the best advice, but I will tell you that if you shame that 20% lesser version of yourself, you'll be significantly more successful with getting the uptick. And by the way, very importantly, now I got to go practical, right? Like, that current version of you is not the truth. That story is horse, you know what? It's not real. You and your family deserve more. If you're not making, again, are you at $500,000? Are you at $1 million? What's the goal, right? Like 20 clients at $2,000 a month is $480,000 a year with 80% margins. Is that who you are as a person? Do you deserve that? Is that you, or are you the client, or are you the business coach that struggles to generate leads? If you identify as the coach that struggles to generate leads, no rah talk is going to get you to the other. We got to shame that person into becoming the 7-figure coach, right? And again, that is what you deserve. That is what your family deserves. That's what your kids deserve to see as a role model. That's what your grandkids deserve to see as a role model. Who you are as a person is that next level, however you want to word it, but that next level business coach, that 7-figure business coach that crushes it and people pay to see. That next level identity you step into is like, that person is 25 pounds lighter. That person goes to the gym every day. That person is fit. That person doesn't eat a bowl of ice cream at 8 p.m. before bed. And by the way, I may or may not like a bowl of ice cream at 8 p.m. before bed. But guess what? I manage it on steroids. Once in a while it happens, but it zero chance it's going to happen consistently. That's just not who I am as a person. Never going to be. And by the way, there was a time when I was, but guess what? I was down and I was depressed and I wasn't being my best self. I wasn't showing up as best husband and the best father and the best business person and the best CEO, the best founder. And again, but for you, what is it? That person reaches out to 25 people a day without fail. Sniffles, cold, cough, don't care. You reach out. That person deserves maybe like a joint venture with who? With the local accountant. Maybe it's with the bank. Do you deserve referrals from the bank? Who are you as a person? How talented are you as a business coach? You got to blow up the guy who says no and basically shine a light on the one that says yes. Are you the person that speaks on stages to business owners every single week? Like that person makes 25 grand a month falling off a log, and I'm talking net, on a recurring basis. That person can read a financial statement. There was a time in my life when I was, maybe like you, but financial statements were something that I didn't understand, but I was actually intimidated by. What did I do? I went all in because it was just critically important in order for me to become the next version of myself. But I literally wrote a book on accounting and talk about it all the time, right? I'm not an accountant. Don't pretend to be an accountant. Don't want to be an accountant. Not going to become an accountant, but I can tell you I'll go toe to toe with an accountant any day of the week and talk business principles. And I think that the accountant will walk away saying that guy really knows his stuff. Why? That's who I am as a person. That's the talents that I have created, and I'm never going back. Who cares about me? What about you? Okay, dive into financial statements if that is something that resonates that might help you go to the next level. And the good news is, I promise you, it's 100 times less exciting than it probably could be. And any version less than that is literally shameful for you and your new identity and the level of results and the level of outcomes in your life. And more importantly, for the lives and businesses you're going to impact with this new level and new identity. Those business owners that are struggling, you're going to be the one that's going to move the needle. You turn around a suicide, you could turn around a coaching sale all day long, twice on Sunday. So, shoots, that sounds like you said rabbit hole. I don't know. And the best way to do it as a business coach is to adopt. Again, you need to have a system to install, right? So again, what do we have? I have a private operating system that can be installed into any business. How much more comfortable would that be? It's not built on hopium, and it's not that I'm excited about it because I saw it work once. It is built on math and inevitabilities, right? So what am I trying to say? If your identity needs a little bit more confidence, a little bit more conviction in what it is that you're doing and the coaching and the, the profitability and the needle moving results that you're going to get with your clients, maybe adopting our operating system would improve your level of confidence and help you step into that new identity and shame the old one, right? Become the best and most impactful business coach version of yourself. Again, doesn't matter where you're at. In order to take the next step, you've got to blow up the old identity and step into the new one. And the way to do that is to shame the old one. And I would give you a frame. I said this earlier. Anxiety is the price of ambition, right? If you're going to do what I'm saying and blow up your old identity and step into the new one, expect to have some anxiety as you go through some meaningful and worthwhile change, and to, feel like all of a sudden you don't belong or lose a little bit of love, and have some people around you go, oh, who does he think he is? Who does she think she is? With all this big language and these motivational quotes. And, I know their real story. And then you got to blow up the old version. Those people don't know who you are. They know who you were. They don't know who you are. They don't know this new version. And this new version of you doesn't care what they think. What they care about is making a difference, getting clients, accomplishing your financial goals, but more importantly, the financial goals of the clients that you're going to impact. You really want to build a 7-figure coaching business. What you got to do is have a list of clients that you absolutely crush it with. Anyway, shoots, that was rabbit hole-ish, but that's what I got, bud. But identity, I can't begin to tell you. I agree, and it's so powerful. But shame the old one to step into the new one is what I was trying to say there. Hope I did.
All right. That was a rabbit hole and a half, but let's bring it home. So let's give our listeners one thing they can walk away and implement from today's episode right now.
One thing. I don't know. Maybe go into you asked about my greatest fear. I don't think I gave a very good answer, by the way. But I don't know if you know what I mean. What's the, what in AA? Step number one, my dad, I call him the grand poobah of AA, right? He's been sober for 54 years, still goes to a meeting every single day. And he doesn't go to the meetings because he's scared he's going to start drinking. He's like the mentor's mentor, right? And rule number one of AA is what? You got to tell the truth. So I think if you get really dialed in to what your greatest fear is, and maybe let's create a fear around business coaching and building that 6-figure, multiple 6-figure, 7-figure coaching business. What is your greatest fear around that? And I can tell you comfortably, it's like, what did I say? It's like, if they get to know me, if they saw me, they wouldn't really love me, kind of thing, like that frame. You know what I mean? So if you feel like that, that's, bollocks, just bloody hit it head on, but maybe that's not your fear. Maybe it's something else, and that's fine. What is your greatest fear? But I can tell you, picking up that my experiences with business coaches in the sandbox, trying to make it and try to get to the 6, multiple 6, and really crush it towards 7. They're scared of just putting themselves out there. You got to shame the person who's scared to put themselves out there and be the person that is going to create meaningful change. Start with you and then go to them. And remember, your greatest client is you 5 years ago. So again, go start finding versions of you 5 years ago. That's your ideal client. Go find them. Go make some meaningful change. Anyway, that's my answer, Shoots. What's the truth? Go to the truth. You got to tell the truth if you want to, overcome an addiction. Well, maybe you're a little bit addicted to fear, which I'd say a lot of people are addicted to your fears, not to fears, but to your fears. Blow them up, shame them. There you go. That's my answer, Shoots.
As one of my mentors famously said, the most powerful man in the room is the one who has nothing to hide. Love it.
Boom. There you go, Shoots. Well done.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging with us on another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Here's the deal. If you want more of this every single day, Karl sends out daily emails packed with coaching strategies, client wins, and the stuff that's actually moving the needle now. Not 10 years ago, now. So head to focus.com, get on the inside, and that's where the real work happens, folks. And hey, if this episode helped you, do us a solid, share with another coach who needs to hear it. Leave us a review if you're feeling generous, because we're on a mission to impact as many coaches as possible. And you sharing this show makes that happen. That is it for another week, folks. We will see you in the next episode. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.